Catus Maximus here. Never done a video about Genius Tools. Genius Tools out of Canada, like Mastercraft Pro. Not a lot of Canadian tool companies, but I didn't realize Genius was a Canadian tool company. These are Taiwanese, and actually in another video I had mentioned where somebody had been ordering tools from Europe and this reselling in the United States, and many European countries, and even apparently Canada, doesn't have country of origin laws. The United States does. Genius was actually proper, and they did put a made in Taiwan sticker. It's hilarious because they realized that that's what they had to do in the United States. So they have a sticker and they actually just put it on the outside of the shrink wrap. Anyway, these are Taiwanese, but Genius has apparently been around for a long time, 45 years, 1975. And I guess their tools are okay. The only reason I'm even aware of them is I randomly ran into a impact socket from them. This one right here, a 3/4 inch drive, and I was like, oh, Genius. And to tell you the truth, I kind of thought it was just like a basic Harbor Freight brand, but it turns out that they're actually not too bad. Now, this is a chrome vanadium socket wrench set, and I've always been curious about these things, but I always wanted one that was a little better than just like the terrible Chinese stuff. Actually, I made a mistake on some Chinese wrenches I'll talk about in the future video real soon here. These were 65 bucks, so not super cheap, but for the type of wrenches that they are, it's a reasonable price for chrome vanadium, Taiwanese made. Another thing I should mention is I did buy these off of Amazon, but these are supplied by Genius's warehouse directly, not by an Amazon reseller, and not out of an Amazon warehouse. What that means is they were actually packaged properly. This had another double wall box around it that was strapped. I was really pretty satisfied. Even came with a packing list, so we do know it was from their from their actual warehouse. And I thought that was genius, calling their shipping department Starship. I think that's a little bit hilarious. So let's take a look at these. I've always been intrigued by these because these are a convenience tool. These are when you kind of need a socket, but you don't want to deal with a ratchet and socket. You just want to grab a wrench that kind of has the capabilities of a socket with a breaker bar, all in one tool. As we can see, this is a 6-piece set, 12 different sizes from 8 to 19 millimeter. And one thing that had been mentioned online is that Genius Tools, the quality wasn't super great a long time ago, but they definitely improved. So we can see they did roll stamp chrome vanadium. They are at least trying to be a tool company. Each one has its own individual part number. And we can see that it actually is custom forged. These, some very cheap Chinese ones I saw online, they had actually just taken like a box wrench beam and twisted it in order to make this. We can see here that this is obviously a beam that is specially forged just to be a socket wrench. Now we can take a little bit of a look here. I wonder if that's just some play. So not the perfect centering as we can see right there. How about on this side? Also not entirely perfect, but I'm okay with that because as far as initial impressions, they seem to be fine. They do use threaded fasteners, so you can tighten them up. They do have friction, but we can see in that little slot that they're using like a split washer in there to provide the friction, which isn't my favorite. But at least a good thing about it is if they start getting loose, you just pull out the screw and replace the split washer. If we take a look at the socket end, we can see, actually let me get a bigger one so it's easier to see. Here's our 19 millimeter. We can see that they did flute the socket end, so that's actually quite satisfying. And these beams actually are pretty stout. So these would be the depth of just a standard shallow well. I say about a shallow well 3/8 inch drive equivalent socket. And the other thing with these are the deal with these types of wrenches, and I'm glad the Genius put enough meat here, is they're designed to be like a socket and breaker bar. So that's why they're not like ratcheting box wrenches where the beam has a little fork and then the head goes into it. These are more like those heavy duty breaker bars where they put the split in the actual drive end and then use a big wide flat on the beam, so it actually ends up being a stronger system. So I absolutely shouldn't expect any issues breaking bolts with these, and that's half the point of these. Is these are kind of like a wrench that you can just have no issue breaking bolts. They stay on the fastener nice and easy, and they provide another or I should say another value, which is property. I don't know what the word is. They work like offset wrenches too. We have this nice clearance. You can break the fastener, and then you can do some unique things like if you have a stiff fastener, you can just turn up the other end, crank it around. Another nice thing about having the sockets on both ends is if you're putting a lot of force on it, you're not pinching your hand just on the narrow beam, say, of a box wrench. You have this actual big round lug on the other side to really get a lot of force and good purchase on the tool. So overall, I just don't think these are too bad. Tiny's been in this video more than she's been in the last 300 videos, but it's better that she's hanging around now rather than later. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.